My name is Kristen Johnson. I am an elementary school librarian. Today I'm going to be introducing you to one of my favorite authors and illustrators, Oliver Jeffers. He is a picture book maker, he calls himself. He does the illustrations as well as the words. Has published 11 books that way, has published an additional 6 as the illustrator only. The most recent one made the New York Times bestseller list, The Day the Crayons Quit, written by Drew Daywalt and illustrated by Oliver Jeffers. He has won multiple awards. His books have been published in over 40 languages, and I have a few examples here today. This book is Stuck. It is all about a boy who gets a kite stuck in a tree and then has multiple humorous ways of trying to get it out of the tree. He has created some characters called the Hueys. I have 2 examples here. The New Jumper, as well as It Wasn't Me. He has published other books called The Incredible Book-Eating Boy, Heart in a Bottle, Lost and Found, Up and Down, How to Catch a Star, The Way Back Home, just a few of them. And today we're going to be reading his most recent publication, This Moose Belongs to Me. So I'll read the book, and then at the end I will talk about how I use it in class. This Moose Belongs to Me, written and illustrated by Oliver Jeffers. Wilfred owned a moose. He hadn't always owned a moose. The moose came to him a while ago, and he just knew that this moose was meant to be his. He thought he would call him Marcel. And here you can see him labeling Marcel accordingly. He began following Marcel, explaining the rules of how to be a good pet. Here's rule number 3. While Wilfred is lounging, Marcel is to bring him cold drinks while dressed in a tux. Much of the time it seemed as though the moose wasn't listening, but Wilfred knew he was, mostly because he followed rule 4 very well, not making too much noise while Wilfred plays his record collection. Sometimes the moose wasn't a very good pet. He generally ignored rule 7, going whichever way Wilfred wants to go. The moose had a very good sense of direction, and Wilfred did not. And because the moose was particularly poor on rule 7, subsection B, maintaining a certain proximity to home, Wilfred quickly learned to bring some string along on their outing so he could find his way back again. Here he is, unrolling his ball of string. Sometimes the moose was an excellent pet. He had no trouble with rule 11, providing shelter from the rain. Or rule 16, knocking down things that are out of Wilfred's reach. And he says, "Good work." One day, as Wilfred discussed their plans for the coming year on a particularly long walk, he made a terrible discovery. Someone else thought they owned the moose. She says, "Rodrigo, you're back!" Wilfred was dumbstruck. This was Marcel, not Rodrigo. The old lady was mistaken, and Wilfred thought it only proper that he correct her. This moose, he belongs to me," he explained. And to prove it, he called Marcel. "Heel." But the moose did not respond. He seemed more interested in the old lady. "Good, Rodrigo." Embarrassed and enraged, Wilfred rushed off for home. "Fine!" But in his haste and miles from anywhere, he tripped over a string and got tangled up. And there he lay. Wilfred was beginning to get a little bit worried. It was past his home time, and the monsters would be out soon. He had just ruled out the last of his options when along came the moose and performed Rule 73 brilliantly, rescuing your owner from perilous situations. Let's see what he's eating there. was forgiven. And perhaps, Wilfred admitted, he'd never really owned the moose. Anyways, he's taking off his tag. With that in mind, he and the moose reached a compromise. The moose would agree to all of Wilfred's rules whenever it suited him. Dominic, you're back! And you brought me an apple. Now you'll notice throughout the book that on almost every page there is a moose, a boy, and an apple. One thing that Oliver Jeffers talks about in his How to Draw a Moose tutorial video on YouTube is how a moose can smell an apple from 17 miles away. So one thing that I did with some of my older grades, the grade 3, 4, 5, is we did that Oliver Jeffers tutorial video. I downloaded and photocopied a landscape, black and white landscape similar to this, and the students all had their markers along and drew a moose according to the Oliver Jeffers tutorial video, as well as a couple additional elements to the picture, and they made up their own rules. So I'll show you a couple examples. Here we have Rule 372, bring a cold blanket, or bring a blanket when I'm cold. So we have the moose, blanket, the boy, and the element, the flower. Another one is Rule 81, wear Christmas lights when walking with owner. A very practical rule, especially at night. Here we have Rule 17, you have to love owls. And I'm apparently assuming that this child loves owls. That is the rule for her pet moose. Here we have Rule 72, never trust a raccoon. This is the only example I have with an apple. I believe that's an apple in it. But the kids really enjoyed this. Even the ones who don't feel like they have much of an artistic ability end up with a project that they are proud to take home and share with their family. The kindergarten kids found the book very amusing. It was a good opportunity to talk about pets versus wild animals, to talk about an animal that's native to Canada where the school is located. We had great fun with the grade 3s when we did a similar illustration on a color picture, but the black and white was a much better turnout. So when you're talking about illustration styles, illustrators, that sort of thing, it's a very good example to use where the kids come away with a product that they really enjoy. I hope you enjoyed the book, and I hope you enjoy a tutorial video with Oliver Jeffers, How to Draw a Moose, as well as Oliver Jeffers in his New York studio. It's also a very good video to show your students, to introduce to them who Oliver Jeffers is, and to show them what life as an illustrator might be like.